Now it's time to talk about the one class that I personally have at level 60 in Classic WoW Hardcore, the Druid. In this video we will go over the pros and cons of the Druid class as it relates to hardcore servers in Classic WoW. We will go through the Druid's abilities which are relevant for hardcore, how good the class actually is, and give it a rating for solo gameplay, group gameplay, and survival. The Druid is actually an insane class for hardcore, especially for leveling. Being a hybrid class, you have access to tanking spells and tanking abilities to keep aggro and reduce damage taken. You have self-healing through restoration abilities, you have melee damage, and you have ranged damage output, which allows you to, which you can use whenever necessary. Having the ability to do both melee and ranged damage is actually an insane edge over any other melee classes, as you can use something like Moonfire to tag and pull a mob out of other mobs in a crowded area. Plus, if it's a caster, you can simply cast Wrath on him until he dies, or pull him out by line of sighting or outranging. Having access to Bear Form and Thorns, you can effectively pull 2 to 3 to 4 mobs in one pull and damage them all down quite effectively, especially when you get access to Swipe, increasing your efficiency by a lot as well. One thing that is particularly good about Druids in hardcore is that you are not really gear dependent at all. You never have to care about looking for weapon upgrades to increase your damage output, because if you level as a feral Druid, which most people do in classic hardcore anyway, then your weapon is only a stat stick, meaning weapon damage is basically useless for you, allowing you to pump maximum damage 24/7 and never feeling undergeared for your current content. You also have little to no downtime, especially as you progress through your levels, and you get access to things like power shifting when you get the Wolf's Head Helm, and you also get Omen of Clarity from Talent Points, which gives you free healing, which means the only mana usage you will use is going back into cat form after using that Omen heal. Having little to no downtime means that you can chain pull mobs back to back, and it just feels both safe and efficient at the same time. Two very important factors for leveling when you only have one life. One more addition to the Druids is that you get access to both Feline Swiftness and Travel Form. Feline Swiftness will give you plus 30% movement speed in cat form when you put both talents into it, and at level 30 you also get Travel Form for that plus 40%, giving you a massive movement speed increase before that mount at level 40. And the reason why I mention this is because hardcore servers will offer a fresh environment, and walking is a big part of the classic WoW leveling experience, so having this movement speed bonus will increase your leveling speed by way more than you might think, allowing you to get ahead of the pack on launch. Playing as a Druid, you feel pretty much safe 24/7, even if you're feral and play in melee range. The reason is because you have so many abilities at your disposal which will help you out for survival. If things are looking scary, you can simply root the mob and run away, and having access to self-healing is huge, and cannot be stated enough how important that is. The Druid does have a couple of downsides which I'll mention really quickly. If you want to do your class quest for the Sunken Temple, this one requires you to tag a Devil Sword in Ungoro. You can simply root and hibernate the Devil Sword then run away, but the Devil Swords are actually pretty fast, so you might have to use dash. The only reason I mention this is because I was really scared when I leveled my own Druid, and I just want you to be prepared. For max level content, you will pretty much be stuck with two options, tanking or healing, and in both those scenarios, a raid setup will most likely only want one of each, as you usually don't stack Druids. This could be a positive or a negative. On one hand, the demand for Druids at max level is not that high, but on the other hand, if a Druid item drops, you will most likely get it, because there's not that much competition. A Druid will have his full tier set months before most warriors and rogues will, that's for sure. Alternatively, feral Druid DPS is not bad at max level either, but due to how vanilla WoW is designed, you will be sitting in Nomor again farming that crowd pummeler for just about 6 hours every single day, and you will need to spend thousands of gold every single month on consumables, as you will be chugging mana potions and mana flasks, just in order to be competitive on the DPS output. That being said, if you actually can be bothered jumping through all those hoops, feral Druids can actually be top DPS. So let's get into some Druid abilities. Number 1, Entangling Roots. If I had to choose one Druid ability which is the most important, this is probably the one. This one can be used as a survival ability by rooting a mob in place, then run away. Alternatively, if you pull 2 mobs but only want to handle 1 at a time, just root one of them and pull the other one slightly out of melee range. But also, druids can use entangling roots to solo just about any elite mob in the open world, as long as it is outside and not in a cave or in a building. Simply root, run out of range, then reroute as the timer runs out, and repeat this process. It is a very tedious way to solo an elite, and it will take time, but it's an incredibly easy way to solo any mob that you want to. Feline Swiftness for increased movement speed in cat form. This is a talent you get access to around level 20. Travel form at level 30 for even more movement speed. Moonfire, this one can be used to tag mobs incredibly fast, which is insanely important in a fresh environment, and this one can also be used to kite and kill mobs. Hibernate, this one can, it's literally just a crowd control ability for beasts, but it is pretty useful in zones like Ungoro and other zones. Accidentally pulled a Devil Sword? Well, just hibernate it. Dash, a sprint ability to run away. Thorns, dealing damage back to attackers upon attacking you. Innervate, once you get access to this ability, you literally never have any downtime at all while playing Feral, and every time you go out of mana, Innervate will basically be ready. Self-healing abilities like Regrowth. Demoralizing Roar, not sure how to say that one. Reducing the attack power of nearby mobs, really useful, especially in the lower levels, when you use bear form a lot and want to pull between 2 and 4 mobs at a time to maximize your swipe damage. Prowl, allowing you to stealth past enemies, which is really useful while questing, as this makes you able to stealth past mobs and elites and go straight for a named mob or an objective. Cure Poison, and many mobs will poison you while leveling, which can actually be quite tricky to deal with, as poison damage will break your bandage healing, so having a way to cure poisons is actually pretty nice. And lastly, Bear Form, giving you more armor, more health, less damage taken, pretty nice. So let's get into some ratings. For solo gameplay, it's an obvious 5 out of 5 stars, having leveled a Druid to 60 myself in solo self-found hardcore. It is incredibly safe all the way, you deal good damage, not reliant on weapon upgrades through playing Feral, no downtime, root dangerous mobs, dash to sprint away. It's actually insane how strong Druids can be. For group gameplay, I kind of want to put it at 3 out of 5, but I'm going to go for 4 out of 5. Having the ability to DPS, tank and heal gives it an extra star in my opinion, being able to fill any role at any time. In addition, Feral DPS can both tank and DPS with the same spec, even at max level, so you don't need to respec between tanking and DPSing. That being said, they don't have the highest demand at level 60, you usually only need 1 to 2 of them in a 40-man raid, plus the lack of crowd control stops them from getting a 5 out of 5. For survival, it's back to 5 out of 5 again, referring back to self-healing abilities, roots, dash, movement speed, travel form. Nature's Grasp is a pretty high survival class. Overall, Druid is a very good class for hardcore, and after leveling on myself, it's a lot more fun than I initially thought it would be, and it's definitely worth giving a try.